Money mantra. Money mantra. Manage your mind. Manage your money. You will fall behind if you do not train your mind. If you want to change that, go to mindstate.biz, join the peak, and tune in for live meditation and brain training and take your performance to yet another level. Enter code MONEYMANTRA for an exclusive discount. That's mindstate.biz. Yo, so what's good, my people? I'm here today on another episode of Money Mantra. You know, it's your host, Visual. And today I got a special guest, a friend of mine, and also somebody that you just might be a little familiar with if you happen to be into something that I'm really into, which is Breaking Bad. You know who I got with me today? I got Max Arciniega, and he is Krazy 8 from Breaking Bad. What's good with you, brother?
How are you, Caesar, man? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And
Man.
I'm gonna bust your balls on the pronunciation of my last name.
Even though I asked you to help me pronounce the last name, I still butchered it, didn't I? Arciniega.
It's so much. Yeah. I was gonna say it's so much easier when you say it in Spanish, right?
Man, you know, what a great way to start this. I love it, man. But this is Max Arciniega, man. This is who he is. I have gotten the name right. So, man, yeah. So I said a little bit about the man. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, man. What you do, you know, and whatever little details about your personal life you want to give us, man.
Yeah, wow, that's always a crazy question. Yeah, I was born and raised in Chicago. Logan Square is where I grew up. My brother reminded me not long ago, actually, that I was physically born in Hermosa Park, and then we moved to Logan Square. But I don't have any recollection of being in Hermosa Park, so I'm always like, born in Logan Square, which is where you and I went to school together, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We were at Monroe School there on Wrightwood and
Schubert.
Schubert, yeah. What grade was that?
Man, that was kindergarten, man.
Kindergarten.
That was kindergarten, bro. Miss Christopherson. I'll never forget that lady.
Oh my God.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that brings a smile to my face, man. Yeah, and so I grew up in Chicago, and I went to school there. I went to high school at Steinman High School, and then I went to college at Columbia College downtown Chicago as a theater major out there. And then when I was done with college, man, I moved out to California. I've been here ever since, maybe about 10 or 11 years, and have made my living as an actor. And that's what I've been doing and what I'm doing now. And I have a brother and a sister. My parents are originally from Mexico. I get that question all the time, especially being from Chicago. Everyone thinks I'm Puerto Rican all the time.
Yeah.
But both of my parents are from Mexico, yeah.
Nice, man. That's what's up. So Max, man, I know you're staying pretty busy right now, man. You got a lot of things going on, and you have had a lot of experience since you've gotten to LA, man. Which is awesome, man. I love to see that. Obviously, like I mentioned, Breaking Bad. You've been on Fringe, Blue Bloods, The Unit, ER, just to mention a few. And I know recently you were most recently on a show like in September, I believe, right?
Yeah, this year I just had a show that aired on DirecTV on the Audience Network. It's DirecTV and AT&T Uverse, called Full Circle. And then I just finished shooting a recurring role on a show called Colony for USA. And I'm currently shooting season 3 of a show called Bosch on Amazon.
Nice.
And that one I should wrap up, I think, within the next month. But it's this one. I really enjoy this one. It's called Bosch. It was kind of like a detective thriller, kind of, you know, one of those shows. But it's got a lot more character involvement and stuff. That's some stuff that started airing in 2017. So yeah, it's been a good year, man. It's been a blessing.
Nice, man. I'm happy to hear that, man. So let's get right into this interview, though, man. I really want to know, man, what is your money mantra?
Money mantra. I mean, you know what? I go by 2 of them, and honestly, one of them is one step at a time. and then the other one is things will work out. And the one step at a time always just goes back to the idea of, when we're walking, for instance, right? We're never thinking about walking, but we're always taking it literally one step at a time. And I think that goes into the whole idea of trying to be as present as possible in what you're doing in your life. And then it'll all work out is having faith in whatever you believe in, that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. And that should relieve a little bit of stress from you being so worried about things. And I say this because I myself am, my friends that know me, I'm a basket case when it comes to trying to be in control of everything. Straight up and genuinely straight up control freak, man, everything that I do.
Yeah.
Which is something that I've worked really, really hard on trying to get better at, throughout the years. And I'm still working on it now to this day, I remember when I was doing music in Chicago, I had one of my ex-girlfriends that used to perform with me. I remember her saying to me, she goes, "You're really tough to work with." And I was just like, "What?" And this coming from your girlfriend, she
Right.
knows you. And she's like, "You're really hard to work with." And I was like, why do you say that? I felt that I was pretty easy to work with. And she's like, because you have so much, you're always wanting to be in control. You want to have your hands in every single thing, which is okay. But at times there's got to be that space for the collaborators that are working with you,
Sure.
And I remember her telling me that, especially at that time, I was in love with her, and it was just coming from her, and it was just like, holy shit, wow, maybe that's something that I should look at.
Yeah.
And it was something that I noticed in the years to come that it was a big, big, big problem for me. And so these two mantras that I go by, taking one step at a time, and then it'll all work out, always reminds me that, one, you have to be present, and then two, knowing and trusting that the hard work that you're putting in is going to reap its rewards from it. You know what I mean? And that things are going to be okay, and you don't have to stress so much about having control of everything.
Man, that's excellent, man. I really like to hear that, man, because I'll be really honest with you. I'm in the same boat, man. Major control freak. I always had to have my hand in everything, and just feel like, nobody could do it like I could. That was always my mentality. And one of my biggest flaws was getting out of that. Getting out of that. I was having a hard time getting out of that, but I realized that it was very key to not only my success but to my happiness, to be able to get out of that control freak mentality, man. So I hear you on that. Definitely hear you on that. So we know that you act, man. Let me know, besides the acting, or maybe in a little bit more detail, what other streams of revenue do you have?
Well, I mean, truthfully, for the past, I don't know. I think, well, what's crazy? It's always been a combination. When I first moved out to LA, I had already been, making a little bit of money from the acting, just doing commercials, and so I always had that type of income. It wasn't all my income, because when I first moved out here, I had to start from scratch. So I had to get a new commercial agent, a new theatrical agent, a new voiceover agent. So it was just, the first 2 years, I remember it being just a struggle to just pay your bills. I remember working as a bus boy. I was like a college grad working as a bus boy at Sparkle in Beverly Hills, like Puck's restaurant. And it was funny because you'd have all these big award shows that would go there, because he was the guy that did all the food for the Academy Awards. And so he'd host these big events, and here I am in the kitchen picking up plates and seeing all these movie actors that I was hoping to be, or the TV actors, So at the time I took any jobs that I could get, but I was still auditioning for commercials, and that was maybe 10, 11 years ago. So at that time, if you booked a commercial, you'd make a nice amount of money. You could average maybe anywhere from 10 to 25 to 30,000 off of one commercial.
Right.
Because the internet wasn't around, so they were showing those commercials much more on primetime television. So it was easier to make some more money off of it. But then I think maybe about six to 8 years ago, I think I transitioned into being able to make a living full time off of acting. But currently, I think another revenue stream would be I think we chatted a little bit about this earlier. Was I bought like an investment property with my brother,
Yeah.
and so we were able to pick up a property that is giving us some cash flow, some monthly cash flow. So it's been a combination of both.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
great to hear, man. So we got your streams of revenue. We know things are going well for you right now, but I really want to hear in detail the moment in your life during your worst financial time.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be that's gonna be right at the beginning of 2000. I think 2004 was when I first moved out here, and I just didn't know any better, man. I came out to LA like just with a dream and a goal to just want to be an actor. Even at that time, it was not even about the money. It was really more about just this is what I want to do as an artist, and this is the direction that I have to go. And I got out here. I didn't have any money saved at all.
Mm.
And I got out here, and I remember losing an apartment that I was supposed to get like through Craigslist. And I drove out here with a buddy of mine, and the apartment didn't go through. It fell through. And so I was just like, shit, I literally have, I don't know who to call, and what to do. And so I literally kept in my car a couple of days in Venice Beach while I tried to figure out what was happening. And I remember maybe like 2 or 3 days after, I remember I had a phone number of a buddy of mine who I'd met at this showcase that I did out here when I'd first come out here to kind of peep the scene. And called him up, and I was like, hey, man, look at this. What happened with this apartment? And he's like, man, come on through. He's like, I just found this. He's like, I just rented this townhouse. He's like, we have no furniture. So, come on in. You can crash here. And so I remember going there, and we were just sitting at the table, and he's like, so what are the plans? I was like, honestly, I really don't have plans because I had paid for this apartment up front, and that money's gone because the apartment thing was kind of like a scam type thing that happened with the owners there. And he's like, well, feel free to crash here. And he literally had no. He was also out here from New Orleans trying to be an actor, and he had no money either. He's like, dude, just like sleep on the floor. And I literally was sleeping on the floor for.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be only like when somebody tells you, yeah, feel free to stay over. They're really not saying like forever. They're saying
Right.
like, maybe a couple of days, get your stuff together and then get out. And that turned into months, man. It turned into months. And he was kind enough to do that for me, and it was crazy. When I talk about it'll all work out, that was a situation where I had to have faith that something was going to come.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like a blessing in disguise, man. He's to this day one of my best friends out here, and also my roommate still to this day. And it was funny because throughout the years, him and I, we kind of like went back and forth. I started like getting some stuff moving, and I'd help him out, and then he had some stuff moving, he'd help me out. So I had a really good situation with him where I was able to find a good friend and find someone that was supportive, and we were able to help each other out. But during that time, man, yeah, it was literally like I had $75 in my bank account.
Wow.
And bad credit to top it off.
Yeah.
So it was just a tough time. I take whatever I could find. I remember getting a job as a tutor, pretty much like you tutor kids after school out here in a Los Angeles school system. You'd go to these kids' houses and tutor them for an hour, and you'd make some money there. And then working as a bus boy. And I remember going to these like companies that would throw these just like random jobs at you, and then it was that, and then praying to God that I was going to start working as an actor. You know what I mean? But I mean, there were like some, in retrospect, they're like crazy times. I think what got us through though too was, we were really young, and we were just really excited about being out here. Everything was new to me. I had never been out to California, so that kind of helped. It didn't make the process as painful as it seemed.
Wow. Yeah. Man, that's great, man. I love the resilience that you proved through all of that, man. I think that's a major key right there in life in general, especially when you're put in a situation where you have to bounce back, man. So that's really great, man. I'm happy to hear that. Um, tell me, what's the number one thing that you feel you learned from this experience, man? What lesson did you walk away with?
Oh man, so many to be honest with you, man. Because it's one of them being that I think as humans we're so much more resilient than we think we are. Um, and it's hard. I think if you focus on something, it's kind of like it's a gift and a curse at the same time, right? Because I think when we're so focused on accomplishing goals, we sometimes lose track of the other important things in life in general.
Hmm.
Experiencing moments, and since I was a kid, man. I mean, when I was in Chicago, I just had this like there was nothing else that existed for me. So for me, it was this or nothing. It was this, and it came from a competitive like sports background where I played soccer when I was a kid. I think from when I was 6 till I was about 19, and it was just that competitive nature that transitioned into my real life, which was my idea of victory or my idea of
Hmm.
winning. And anytime that I felt that I wasn't winning, I'd be working harder to win. And it's funny because that's not what this process is about. It's not what acting is about by no means, because acting is such a team sport per se. We have so many people working on a project, and every single one of those people, from the bottom up or the bottom down, um, are instrumental into what you see on television and what you see in a movie. But on a personal level,
Hmm.
having a good day while I'm working is a victory for me, and that's always what I'm pushing for. But one of the things I learned, Matt, is that it does take a certain type of personality or human being to um, continue to do something that from the outside looks so outlandish. Really, if you think about it, right? I grew up in our neighborhood. If someone said to you, "Hey, man, I want to be an actor,"
Right.
you know, you would, what's the response to
Like
that?
how?
And even how, like, how does one do that, or but it's the idea of genuinely, it takes just a lot of hard work, man. It just
Yeah.
takes a lot of hard work, and I think anyone that's been in any of these, if it's the business of music or acting or anything that's entertainment, it's very time consuming. You have to sacrifice a lot. I know we chatted a little bit about the idea about family, and I've been away from Chicago for 11 years, and I say to myself, all right, let's say I get back to Chicago to see my family 4 times, which is a lot in comparison to other people.
Sure.
Um, but that's 4 times in a year. You know what I mean? And if you start adding those 4 times up, year after year, you say to yourself, in retrospect, like, damn, like that's a lot of time lost.
Yeah.
You know, um, but it's got to be for something. And you and I chatted about the whole idea of our parents being immigrants and coming out here to make a better life for us. It's ingrained in us to want to do something better, so that their sacrifices are worth something.
Sure.
And sometimes they parents want you to be happy. They want you to be happy at the end of the day. So whatever it is that you do, they're going to support. Um, and my parents, they've always been, and I think you can attest with the whole Mexican culture in general that it's not a culture of boasting, and it's a culture of hard work. It's a culture
Yeah.
of being humble. It's a culture of um, putting in the work and being humble, right? And so they would have been satisfied with anything else. But for me, it was just wanting to do things and finding a platform to be able to help other people out. Help our other people that want to do bigger things and not feel like it only has to be a certain thing. And so that's one of the main things that I've learned is that you have to put in the work. For me, it always goes back to the work, and it's always about how can this work benefit other people that are behind me. Because look, man, the truth is I really didn't have anyone that was ahead of me
Right.
coming out here that was going to help me, some type of mentor, someone that was going to say, hey, Max, you should try this or not try that, what you're doing here, or have someone that it didn't exist for me because I just wasn't, it wasn't accessible to me, where I grew up. And so I take on the responsibility of helping as many people as I can when I get the phone call from kids that went to the same college as me, and they're like, they want advice or help, and I really take pride in being able to do that, to give back. I might straight away from the question. That's the ADD kicking in, but
That's all good,
but yeah,
man. You made some great points, man. You made some great points, especially something that really stood out to me is you mentioned about like a competition, and within yourself, you made it very obvious that it wasn't, you weren't competing with the people that you're working with, but it was more like a personal thing, and I could definitely be in that same zone with you, man, because I know what that's like. You don't really want to compete with anyone, but you want to make sure that you're striving for something better for yourself. You're making yourself happy at the end of the day, knowing that you worked hard. And going back to having the Mexican roots, we know that at the end of the day, we got to work hard, and we want to make our family and the people around us happy. We want to make everyone proud of us. We want to strive from where we started, and we want to end up somewhere. Like you said, it's got to be worth our time. If you're only seeing your family 4 times a year, it's got to be for a reason. And I see
exactly.
that. I see that.
Yeah, yeah.
So listen, man, we heard about your worst financial time, and your experience with that, and I want to hear something a little different though, but I want to hear about another struggle, man. Something that happened in your life, whatever it may be, that was going on, and you just really told yourself, like, you know what, I got to make a change. It's time for a change, and I want to hear about that time, man. Take us to that moment, and tell us why you made that change.
Um, well, there's one of the ones that stand out to me. And this some probably you're gonna be able to relate to big time, is that I was doing music in Chicago. I was doing hip hop music, and I did my general ed courses at Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago. So this was I did my general eds, and I was trying to decide what it is that I really really wanted to do as a career,
Hmm.
and and I remember at the time I was I was performing and I was doing all these things, and but it was that very weird feeling of like, how do you say to somebody, how do you say to your family, how do you say to your friends, hey, I want to be an actor, and in order for me to do that, I have to go to Los Angeles, California, and the reason, like, it was a tough moment, because at that time, like I said, I was doing music as well. I was really involved in hip hop culture, which meant everything to me, and it defined who I was. As you can attest, it's done so much for us as human
Yes.
beings, especially in our neighborhood.
Yes.
It allowed us to express ourselves. It allowed us to build friendships that we would have never had. It allowed us to have a voice, more importantly. Um, but along with that came a lot of some of the stereotypes about it. Uh, Kind of became very present, because it was always about, depending on what, group of people you were hanging out with, it was always about, like, the idea of like keeping it real, or the idea of like, it's got to be this and can't be
Hmm.
that. You got to look like this and you got to say this. There was so much of it. And for me, the way I grew up in the culture was, it wasn't anything about any of that.
Right.
It was about, I grew up with my brother who did graffiti. My brothers, so I call my brothers Phase Two, who were b-boys.
Yeah.
I played soccer with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, this was my knowledge of what hip hop was, and through that came poetry. Through that came hip hop music, and then it was all of that, and then came the monetization of it, and the exploitation of it, and the commercial, uh, um, the commercializing of it. And then it was just like, all right, so now where do I stand? What is it that I want to do? Because there were times where we had people that came out to us wanting us to sign a record deal here or there, and it was just like, there was something about it that was a little limiting, at least at the time, for me.
Right.
It wasn't allowing me to really um, express myself 100%. And it was unfortunate, and it was only on a personal basis, because I felt like, I was creating these songs, and I looked a certain way, so they were like, man, we could, like, you could sell records, you have theater experience, you could be on stage, you could do this and you could do that. And then the inside part of me is just like dying and melting, like, no, this is not what I want to do. Like, I don't want to do it this way, you know? And so I remember I finished my general eds and I was getting ready to start my major. And I remember I had a friend of mine who invited me to watch a play at the Goodman Theater. And it was the Zoot Suit by Luis Valdez, which had only been really put up at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles like in 1978. And so it was like making a round there. And I went to watch the play, and I remember walking into the theater, and I sat there and I was watching this awesome musical with Latinos in it too. You know what I mean? And I sat there and I had this moment at that time, at that moment when I was watching the play, I felt like I was home.
Huh.
I literally just felt like I'm home. And there was something about the experience, and you know, it's like you hear when people have those moments and you don't believe that shit. You just say, it sounds like a bunch of horse shit. And that's to the listener, it might come across that way, but I literally had that moment. And I'll tell you why it was true, because the next day I had applied for this scholarship because I had this mentor. I used to work at the public schools in Chicago, and he was kind of mentoring me, and he was trying to get me to become a teacher. And he had me apply for the scholarship, and I got word that I got the scholarship, so I was going to get a full ride and not have to pay for anything to the School of Education there at Northeastern, and it was ready to go. And the next day I went to the school and I was like, hey, I'm not going to take the scholarship, and I want all my credits transferred to Columbia College, and I'm going to be an actor. And the next day I was at Columbia College, man, and from that day on I never looked back, and just took off. And yeah, so it was just a very, you know, just one moment at that time is what I can remember. And it wasn't necessarily about like, damn, I have to make a change, but it was more about like somewhere deep inside of me, I knew that I had to make a choice, you know. And I had that moment, and that's the choice that I made.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Wow. Well, listen, Max, we're gonna take a quick little break. We're gonna bounce right back into these last final questions, and we'll be wrapping up after. All right. So everyone listening, just hold tight. We'll be back. Check this out. What's good, my people? So I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but video has 135% greater organic reach over audio, photos, or other type of media posts. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, a podcaster, an artist, or anyone else trying to get an audio message across, the best way to do this is to combine it with video and photo. And you could do this at wave.video. That's WAVVE.video. Just go to their website. You could get a free account. And if you need any support, contact them. I've personally been able to work with Baird Hall. He's the founder. He's an awesome guy. He helped me set up everything for Money Mantra. So please go to wave.video. That's WAVVE.video. All right, my people. So we are back with Max, and he is here with me. We are having a great conversation right now. I'm really digging this. A lot of great insight, great stories. And we're going to get into these last final questions. So, Max, how you feeling right about now, man?
It's funny, kind of emotional in a good way.
That's good, man. You got me feeling the same way, man. A lot of reminiscing and a lot of realizing, which is great, man. This is really good stuff right here, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into these last questions, man, real quick, man. So, what is your biggest challenge when dealing with money?
Knowing where to invest and budgeting.
Okay. How about personal mindset? What is your biggest challenge within that?
Finding ways to stay excited about things that I've been doing for a long time.
Okay. All right. Now, what is your biggest strength when dealing with money?
Knowing how to stretch the dollar.
Perfect. How about your biggest strength and within a personal mindset?
Knowing that I'm going to win.
Nice. Love that one. All right. Every day when you wake up, man, what is the greatest thing you're looking forward to in your life?
Continuing to grow as a person.
How about your daily routine, man? Tell us about that, man. A daily routine or habit that keeps you focused on your goals.
Waking up, having a protein shake, getting into the gym, and then depending on the day, if I have to work, it's just rehearsal, 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 rehearsal.
Nice, nice. Can you share either an app, software, service, or other type of resource that helps you with your money mantra?
Um, I would say, well, I have in terms of like just investment apps. There's an app called Acorn
Okay.
that I've kind of set to, it pretty much what it does is it takes the, change. Like if you spend 78 cents, it takes the change of that dollar and invests it. And so it's like an extra little app to have on your phone. It's kind of, you set how much you want to invest or how, throughout the month. And it kind of just sits there every once in a while. I check it to see, how much I've invested. It's just a little something extra to, you know, that you're not too involved in, but sooner than later to start, building one step at a time and to get bigger and bigger.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard about that app. I was definitely intrigued by it, but yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
too sure on whether it was something I wanted to get into or not. But good to hear.
Yeah. And you know what's another great one, man?
Yeah.
Another great one is another one called Digit.
Okay.
And Digit automatically saves for you. So it sets this algorithm on your checking account, and based on what you're spending and what you're earning and what you're depositing, it safely takes out a certain amount of money per day or per week or per month, and so that way you don't have to think about it. And it's one of the best apps that I've used, man.
Wow,
Before you know
Digit.
it, you're looking at and you can if you save X amount of money, you can always move that money right back into your checking account if you need it.
Awesome, awesome. I like that. I'm gonna have to definitely look into that one.
Yeah.
Max, tell us give us a book or film that you recommend, man, and tell us why you recommend that.
A book or a film? Well, I just bought Bryan Cranston's new book
Mm,
called Life in Pieces,
okay.
and I had an opportunity to just befriend him when I worked on Breaking Bad, and he was just such a genuine human being,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just gave me so much advice, um, life advice, acting advice, career advice. And I just started reading the book, man, and he immediately jumps into just things that he does in terms of preparation for his work that I think can be used in many different aspects. But it's called A Life in Parts. I think it's just a great read for people to be able to get an idea of the perseverance. Because sometimes even if you're not an actor, even if you're not into business, when you read books about people who do jobs that are almost impossible,
Hmm.
you learn so much from them, and you say to yourself, well, if they can do it, it's a lot easier for me to do it, and it's not such a hard job. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So I think that's a good one. And then as far as film, God, there's just so many, man. I think it's always one of those questions when someone's like, "What's your favorite movie?" And you're like,
I got 10
and then
of
you're
them.
oh, you know what? Here's a good one. What's it called that I just saw this year, and I think it was the best movie this year was Captain Fantastic.
Ah,
Captain Fantastic, great indie movie, man.
okay.
It's just based on it raises one central question, and it's we live in a time of technology, and it looks into the life of a family that's living off the grid, and
Okay.
you as an audience member gets to decide what side you're on in a way, or how much you agree with one side or the other. It's called Captain Fantastic. Absolute good movie.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard of that movie, man. I gotta definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay, so we're getting right here towards the end, man. This is one of my favorite questions, man, because it allows us to kind of, really see where you are, what you would do in this situation. This is
Hmm.
something we've probably thought about since we were children. We all think about this question now. Now, tell me, what would you do, or maybe what have you done with your first $1 million? Hey, you never know,
I,
right?
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Well, I'll tell you what I would do. What's it called? Yeah, that's a good question. I've thought about that a lot. Um, I'd have to sit down and figure out how I could make that $1 million turn into $2 or $3 or $4 million.
Yeah,
Hitting the $1 million mark is really tricky, only because they say it's always harder to make your first million than it is to make millions after that.
sure.
So I would probably sit down with some type of advisor, and figure out just different ways to invest that money. I definitely wouldn't want to hang on to $1 million. I'd hopefully figure out a way to maybe buy more property that's going to give me cash flow, or figure out investments that are going to be long-term investments that are going to literally, make that 1 million into much more. Because it's kind of crazy, man. You get money and you have it, and you have that feeling of wanting to spend it, and that's the immediate, default setting that we have. So I would probably sit down with someone, figure out, how much of this can I take, or how much of this can I invest, and then how much of this can I take to go have a good time as well. Because life is short, man. We don't take our money with us, and it's also important to have a little fun.
Most definitely. All right, Max. So wrapping up really quick, man, give us some final personal advice and tell us where we might be able to contact you and find you.
You can find me. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and it's at Max Arciniega, MaxArciniega. I know you guys are probably gonna have to rewind that. And then as far as advice, man, I mean, as the years go on, I realize that it's genuinely about what makes you happy, man. At the end of the day, it is very, very, very short time that we have here, and we're reminded constantly about how short that life is when we see some of our favorite artists or personal people that we know in our lives pass away, and it's really hard to remind ourselves consistently to say that to ourselves, that life is short and I should be doing something that makes me happy. I should not be living a life that is someone else's idea of what that life should be. I should not be living my parents' life or my parents' dreams or society's idea of what I should be living. I should be living my life and doing the things that make me happy. And if you're not at that place, today's the day to change that for yourself, because it'll go by so quick, and you never want to look back at your life and say to yourself, like, God, all these regrets, I could have done this, could have done that. That's the worst feeling. And that's actually the fear that I always had. I never wanted to ever feel like I didn't pursue what it was that I wanted to do. And so that's, my 2 cents on that.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Max, man. I could definitely relate to that, man. Having that fear of not being who you want to be, man. That's great, man. So once again, thank you for your time. And to you and to everybody listening, this is the Money Mantra. And as always, peace, blessings, and hundreds of lessons.